Assalamu alaikum rahmatullahi barakatuh, everybody. I'm Preacher Moss, host of the SOS, the Shout Out Show. Come to you on a beautiful Tuesday. I hope you're having a wonderful day. I know I am. So, of course, wherever I go, whatever I'm doing, hoping that there's mutual benefit in anything we do and say, brothers and sisters, as we begin the early part of the week. But you know how this thing goes. Once you get to Tuesday and Wednesday, you're pretty much into the weekend. So, let me reiterate again, we welcome you to the Shout Out Show and appreciate you dropping in and spending some time with us. Brothers and sisters, there's a lot of things that are going on in the world, good, bad, in between. Some of them good things, some of the difficult things. And I was watching situations that have been unfurling. And I'm a big person, like a lot of people. I'm really into communication, how we speak to one another, how we relate to one another, how we in some regards, begin to understand that people have levels. Like when you talking to people in certain conversation, it has levels. It deals with familiarity, deals with language, deals with what's the context of the conversation, and it has all these things. It also has a lot to do with how much information both parties or three or four parties bring to a scenario whereby they're trying to get a resolution or solution, depending on how you do that. One thing I've been noticing, and I would say that I've been noticing for a while, is there's been a very clear deficit in how we do negotiation. Our topic today is the art of negotiation. I'm bringing it up because it's clear to me that in many regards, people have forgotten what a negotiation is, the components of a negotiation, the literally the ideology of why you negotiate. And I say sometimes not knowing those things, we find ourselves in different pockets of emotions and business, sadness, confusion, chaos, because we don't walk in with the basic aspects of negotiation. Now, historically, unfortunately, there have been a scenario where one group could negotiate all the terms and other group could not negotiate anything. Now, that's not negotiation, that's oppression. But in this space of everything that's going on with technology, the IT, the ability to Bitcoin, all this type of stuff, health, education, there's still a fundamental breakdown in how people view negotiation and I want to say execute negotiation. So on the shout out show today, I want to take time to speak about that. We have some people who are doing business. Sister Reed's doing her business. Of course, I do my business, and we have all kind of entrepreneurs that come on the show that do their business. But I thought it was interesting having a conversation with someone on the plane this morning. Just the idea that it is becoming a lost art. Any idea of negotiations out of the window because people have, in many regards, pardon the language, they bastardize the core components and core values why you do a negotiation. And it's meant to be skewed whereby folks have a position, but they don't recognize your position. They have wants and desires, but they don't recognize your wants and desires. They have an idea of an outcome, but they can't view your outcome. And I want to talk about that because it hasn't beginning to, it's not beginning to, it has been spilling over into so many aspects of political life, social life, spiritual life, just life, period. Just the aspect of our children going to school and learning, our teachers feeling safe, our politicians are homeless, and I'm talking about across the board. People who are corporate figures find themselves in situations, scenarios where they don't understand art of negotiation, and sadly, even at the top of the food chain, people are making poor choices. Now, when they make poor choices at the top of the food chain, the people at the bottom of the food chain, I don't want to say at the bottom, but the lower rungs, if you will, the people who are further and further away from the decision that's levied at this point in time, they suffer um, sometimes very negative ramifications of somebody's choice, or in this case, a negotiation. So without going too much into it, we're going to kick our show off, brothers and sisters. I want to give a shout out to all our sick and shut-ins. That would be Sister Lorraine Kitchen, Sister Nancy Mustafa, Sister Ika's family is doing better, alhamdulillah. Brother Kendrick Samuels, our beloved Miss Eleanor. We hope all of y'all are doing better. Now, without further ado, brothers and sisters, we're going to start the show. It's Preacher Moss, yes, West. We're talking about the art of negotiation. Let's hit it.
stopped. Mosques closed. So we prayed alone. Gatherings stopped.
But the show must go on. 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 But the show must go on.
Cinema!
But the show must go on. But the show must go on.
That's right, brothers and sisters. ISNA 2021 virtual conference is coming to you at a TV screen or a computer screen or a phone in your vicinity. And yours truly will be a part of it. Of course, I'm Preacher Moss, comedian extraordinaire, but of course, for this situation, if you don't know, you better ask somebody. I'm going to be Preacher Moss, Mr. ISNA. Now, what does that mean, brothers and sisters, as we talk about another virtual conference for ISNA? It is the fact that they've been out in the street, they've been out in the community trying to uphold some of the aspects of what it is to be a legacy organization. When I say a legacy organization, it means that there's a bit of a bedrock that people lean on. It can be generational, it can be situational, but when we have this conversation about organizations, particularly social organizations or social advocacy, civil advocacy situations, or organizations that stand up for the idea of Muslim lifestyle, Muslim culture, and Muslim expression, of course, ISNA has been there probably the longest. So we will give them a shot, show them some love. So let's get into this whole idea, brothers and sisters. And of course, I'm going to introduce my folks. If you're coming to the show for the first time, I appreciate you. But simple rule, listen, subscribe, share, link, notification, hit all that stuff. Okay? We appreciate you. I'm going to say this because not that it's been bothering me. Because I can say, hey, is there anything that's directly affected my life? Well, yes and no. In business, you want to make sure that other people are doing business well because that, of course, that improves the viability of your business and the vibrancy of your business. But sometimes when you look around, it is a situation where people are involved in predatory relationships when it comes to doing negotiations. All the times we can read contracts and things like that. And what it reflects, brothers and sisters, is that people weren't properly schooled or properly informed about what it is when you go into a negotiation. Now, you can take this a bunch of different ways. You can talk about your business. You can talk about your personal life. You can talk about your children. You know, the art of negotiation is a fundamental rule. It's a fundamental rule and a fundamental bedrock in aspect of community life, religious life, economic life. You have to understand the tenets of doing negotiation. Now, the textbook parts of negotiation, you guys, you probably already know. If I'm being redundant, let me apologize in advance. The textbook part of negotiation, what are? Number one is prepare. Number two is information exchange. Number three is bargain. Number four is, of course, conclude. And number five is execute. I'll give it to you again. That is prepare, information exchange, bargain, conclude, execute. Now, why did I say those things? I say those things, brothers and sisters, because a lot of us don't understand that. We enter into emotional negotiations, which are not negotiations at all. You have to have a very, very strong diet of pragmatism when you are doing business. And I realize this in my religious life that there's a long-standing tradition of pragmatism. There's interpretation, but there's pragmatism. And that's why in religious circles sometimes you don't really have the aspect of negotiation. You have interpretation, but don't have negotiation. A lot of times what we tune ourselves into, brothers and sisters, whether we want to admit it or not, is we're not in talking about negotiation, we're talking about compromise. Because in a true negotiation, I know what I want to get out of it. You know what you want to get out of it. If it's a company, I want 60% of this, you want 60% of this. And in between that, we have an understanding, and that is the negotiation. I will not only tell you why, I would have prepared a reason why I want 60%. I also would have given you the information. Here's my data. Of course, we will bargain and go back and forth. Maybe it's not 60%, but it's 55. Of course, we conclude and then we execute the agreement. I'm saying this because too often now, and I'm going to go out on a limb. Hope you don't mind. The people who are causing a lot of ruckus, it could be anti-vaxxers, Trump, they are compromisers amongst themselves. But when they come to us, they want to negotiate. They are compromisers amongst themselves. Meaning, and the danger about a compromise is that it's too close to a sacrifice. See, a compromise is mutual. A sacrifice is disproportionate. They've always said that. A negotiation, brothers and sisters, allows us to lay out all the information on the table and be able to talk freely about what our worth is, what our value is. You've heard me say this time and time again. Why do I love the Negro Baseball League in terms of a sports entity? I love the Negro Baseball League because there were black men and black women who were negotiating the rights for players, stadiums, receipts, merchandise, all this type of stuff. And they dealt with each other in a professional way, in a way no one else had dealt with them. Sport, baseball, they weren't even allowed to play with white players. They came up with their own market, if you will. And the best part of this market is that it demonstrated that we could do negotiation. So as much as Jackie Robinson going to the Brooklyn Dodgers, he goes there as part of what? A negotiation. Coincidentally, Effa Manley had something to do with him getting more money. And by the way, Branch Rickey could not stand Effa Manley, a black woman. Why? Because she was good at negotiation. We flip now because we tend to believe that certain parties that we're dealing with, let me get some water here. We tend to believe that certain parties we're dealing with are negotiating with us when indeed they feel like we are compromising for them. You see, the biggest argument we have right now in the black community and the Latino community, communities of color, is that people realize, or they feel, that when they come to the table, we're going to compromise. And it's easy to compromise when you have what you want: access to resources, access to finance, things like that. It's very easy to compromise. The bedrock understanding of the civil rights era, the Nation of Islam, is you had a culture of people who were very, very adept at understand negotiation. They should do a lot more writing and research on Brother Medgar Evers, because he was a person who understood negotiation. When you go into a place and you say, we're not going to buy your food, we're not going to eat because of the way you treat us, we're not going to give you our business. That is a negotiation. It's not a compromise. And what they did was they tilted it where white restaurant owners and people who practice Jim Crow understood that, wait a minute, you didn't even have the leverage to do negotiation. And what we have now, brothers and sisters, like Afghanistan, like the Big Lie and the Capitol insurrection, these are people who are hell-bent on compromise. Let me say something about negotiation. Any really good, solid negotiation, brothers and sisters, enjoys the aspect that there are two parties that see value in having this conversation, a transaction. It was many years before African Americans, the Latinos, and Native Americans really came to the table and had the power to do negotiation. I will point out my Native American brothers and sisters. And the reason I'm going to do that is because they were the first ones in America to understand that they were not part of any negotiation. A treaty is a compromise. A treaty says, well, you're not going to get what you wanted, but I'm not going to get really what all I wanted. But I'm going to get most of what I wanted. I wanted 100% of your lands. I got 99.8. To them, that's fair and that's a compromise. The Native Americans, they still live under a treaty existence, brothers and sisters. So when you go to Potawatomi bingo and casinos and you see these Native Americans, understand that they were part of a situation where even in their culture, they weren't taught, hear me now, they weren't taught to do negotiation, which is even deeper concept. African Americans, we learn negotiation as a part of growing up in an oppressive society. The more access you have to resources, the better your negotiation is going to be. You want to have a laugh? I'll give you one. It's always funny to see how people who are very, very used to compromise, getting their way, how they react when they can't have their way. Then they want to negotiate. They don't want to compromise. They want to negotiate. The question, brothers and sisters, that we look at every day on the news, between people who do the vaccines, all the way to the people trying to figure out this scuttlebutt over in Afghanistan. It means that the Taliban, brothers and sisters, forced the United States government to negotiate something we do not do. I don't even think I'm lying. I think Satana, who said this? We do not negotiate with terrorists. I think it might be in a movie. They said we do not negotiate with terrorists. I think George Bush put that out. We do not negotiate with terrorists. Do you hear what I'm saying? It means that we're not open to it. We don't see anything of value in speaking to you. The only thing we're going to have is a compromise. Because in a negotiation, and remember this because I have to remember it also, you have a set idea of what you want to get out of this engagement. That other person has a set idea, and that's why it's different. That's why it feels different, because it's procedural. You see, that compromise is, oh, I'm going to put my emotions in it, and I'm going to come up with all these things. Oh, well, oh, he's not that bad, or she's not that bad, or, maybe I need to understand. And I'm like, no. Ironically, that's what we do in religion. We compromise. I'll get in trouble for that, but I'm going to say it. We compromise. We compromise with good intent, but it's not necessarily that the person on the other side of the conversation is compromising good intent. That being said, I want to throw this out because I think inherently, as the economy does whatever it's going to do, I think the jobs report is going to come out. The job report is going to be a little leaner due to COVID. But you're going to have a situation scenario whereby the job market, and this is important, the job market is going to be out there, but they're not going to have enough people to fill the jobs due to the fact that some of these are skilled positions. But nonetheless, brothers and sisters, I'm telling folks right now, with this job market situation, it's imperative that you kick up your negotiation skills. There's a labor demand, which means that the need for labor has outstripped the amount of available labor. Well, in my position, in my business, I'm like, that's a win-win. That's a win-win. Now, while I'm talking about negotiation in terms of jobs, politics, and things like that, let's talk about negotiation between people. When I would say probably prior to COVID hitting, there was a deficit in terms of how people negate, how they dealt with one another. We see these small things, and it's become more and more prevalent in society that people don't know how to, we say communicate with one another, but in closed spaces, the people do not know how to negotiate with one another. The idea of coming to a meaningful understanding a meaningful understanding, and on both sides there's parity to engage that meaningful understanding, whether it's a law, whether it's a financial action, even if it's just working in a community environment. We have seen, brothers and sisters, the lack of it. Now, this isn't hard, but one of the things that happens, and there's a great, I'm going to turn you guys on to this. There's a great series on Netflix. And this is where I'm coming from with this whole idea of compromise. There's a great series on Netflix called How to Be a Tyrant. That's the name of it. It's called How to Be a Tyrant. And it gives you a playbook of everything you need to do if you want to be a tyrant. They give you Hitler, they give you Stalin, they give you Idi Amin, they give you Gaddafi, they give you a lot of tyrants. And one of the key components, brothers and sisters, for being a tyrant is that you do not compromise. And you definitely don't negotiate. Don't negotiate, don't compromise. And I'm sitting here watching this thing going, well, hell, that happened the last 4 years. We had a person that played out of a tyrant playbook. And the one aspect was don't negotiate, only compromise. Don't negotiate, only compromise. Our political system is built on ebb and flow, brothers and sisters. That's supposed to give us jurisprudence and a particular type of balance. And it just doesn't happen now. We're all out of kilter because for 4 years we had somebody who only wanted to negotiate when it was to their advantage. Now, if that was a business, it'd be fine, but you're talking about the welfare of the United States, the will of the people. And if you can't negotiate the will of the people, then the will of the people is going to suffer or the will of the people is going to change. And we had a situation where the will of the people changed. And part of the will of the people became folks who compromised, who believed things that they felt would give them relief and give them advantage. As much as you could be a Trump supporter, you can't ride around in deep hearts of Alabama and Mississippi with a I love Trump shirt on and walk into a Klan rally. Hey, well, you love Trump, but we don't love Negroes, and that's pretty much going to be the end of it. And I think the thing also is in losing perspective on how we negotiate is having a very, very negative impact on our youth. Because we're not teaching our youth to negotiate. Something happened a bunch of years ago. I think it was a Columbine shooting years ago. 2 young men went to a high school. They were called the Trenchcoat Mafia. They pulled out a bunch of weapons, semi-automatic weapons, automatic weapons, and they waylaid to the school. They killed a lot of people. And they said something in their writing, which was, this was the summation of we don't negotiate. Now think about it. We don't teach our children to negotiate. It's like, how is that going to work? Hold that thought. Let me give some shout out to our people in the queue. Who we got today, Sister Satana? What's going on? What's going on? Hello, family. All is well. How about you? Reed, we're always happy to see you on. You, Derek, Jawad. Appreciate you. I hope everything continues and you have a successful week 3 coming up at the International Food Market, 239 Green Road in Houston, Texas. Yes, yes. All right. You're looking forward to my subject of negotiation. Well, my mom is on here. Let me tell y'all something. When I was a kid with my mom, and I just want you to know, my mom ain't never negotiated with me. My mom was an autocrat. What she said goes. No, actually, my mom did engage. My mom and dad did engagement aspects of negotiation, which was a lot of it had to do with preparation and being able to state your case for value. So I'm gonna give mom and dad that, but some things there was no negotiation. And I believe there are some things parents should not negotiate with their kids about, plain and simple, till they get to that point. All right, who else we got? Altaf Rashid, our ambassador from Canada, Toronto, Canada. What's going on, brother? This is 6 o'clock, straight up, straight down. Appreciate you being on the call today, on the stream today, brother Altaf. How about you, brother? Anything you had to negotiate lately? Just think about it. And if anybody has anything they want to throw in about this idea about negotiation, like I said, this is a 2, 3, 4, 5, 10-way conversation. Don't let me dominate this thing. All right, next up, we got Sister Ika. Sister Ika, thanks so much for coming on the show. We appreciate you. We gave a shout out to you and your family at the top of the hour. God bless. Hope all is well. Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. All right, who else we got? Sister Janice Tuff. Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. What's going on? I just tweeted number 460 episode live with picture. Oh, sis, what's up, Jet? I appreciate you. We appreciate you. Thanks so much for putting us out there on a positive light. You know, if it comes from your Twitter or your social media, we are double blessed. We appreciate you. Thank you so much. Next up, little brother had a great conversation with my little brother earlier today, hanging out in Milltown. That's right. Taking this big brother around. Big brother had no wheels, brother and sister. I couldn't even rent a car in Chicago. He took me everywhere I needed to go. Didn't complain. I got to hang out with my nephew, who's looking me above my eyebrows by around. The boys got big, brothers and sisters. But we appreciate you. JT, I appreciate you. Even though I said it earlier today, I'm going to let everybody know. Little brother, you always on point for big brother. Appreciate it. Next up, of course, and we have our sister. We have Sister Satana bringing up making sure this thing. Let's give Sister Satana a hand, brothers and sisters, because we have a lot of work to do oftentimes. And, you know, sometimes it's easy to overlook what people actually do. You know, and Sister Satana is always on point, always on deck. You know, we recently had to do a show where it was Saturday. We had to program the show. I had to pre-record it. And, you know, it was playing on, but it was Sister Satana who watched the entire show to make sure it went off. And I mean, that's just quality control and dedication from somebody. And like I said, Sister Satana, you're a star on the Shout Out show. It's just a little bit of time for the rest of the world catches up. So don't forget us when you blow up now. Don't forget us when you blow up. So let me wrap up about this last thing. Again, brothers and sisters, the art of negotiation is 5 things. Again, preparation, information exchange, bargain, conclusion, execution. These are the things that keep it business, brothers and sisters, that keep it business. It sounds pragmatic, but sometimes it has to be, because sometimes you can't have emotions and things coming to your negotiation. You have to operate with a clear mandate and a clear mind. Compromise, most of the time in a compromise, brothers and sisters, somebody gives more than the other person. And they'll feel like, you know what, I compromised, and they feel resentful because they gave up something that was really important to them and they didn't get the results. Learn that whole aspect and get away, brothers and sisters, of course, from sacrifice. Sacrifice is totally disappropriate. It doesn't work out. So I'm going to go ahead and move off of that. Let's give a shout out to our sponsors. Let me see. We got our sponsor right here from, of course, BeFinanciallyIndependent.com. She says, negotiate is the key to living because everything literally involves some form of negotiation. Y'all heard it from my attorney. That's Maxine BK Esquire. Also, the owner and proprietor and an MBE for BeFinanciallyIndependent.com. Again, that's BeFinanciallyIndependent.com. You can call 1-888-496-6845. Again, that's 1-888-496-6845. Call and get that information about financial advising, brothers and sisters. I'm telling you, I've taken some great advice from Miss Kate over the years, and I just find that, you know, you have to get an advisor that wants to see you do well. I don't know if people understand that. The negotiation with your advisors would be that I want to know that in this exercise, this journey we're going to take, is that we both come out on the plus side of an engagement. Just think about that. Okay. Now, let's move on to Bayan Islamic Graduate School. If you're thinking about getting a quality graduate or doctoral education, for Islamic studies, Islamic leadership, Islamic education, or the Masters of Divinity Muslim Chaplaincy Program, you got to check out, of course, Bayan. Go to bayanonline.org. Again, that's bayanonline.org. So, brothers and sisters, that is it. If you get a chance, you'll check it out. But please check out this little thing called on Netflix called How to Be a Tyrant. I don't want you to be a tyrant, but I want you to understand some of the nuances of what they're talking about in conjunction with this whole idea of the art of negotiation. And you'll see how the world has kind of got this way. Some things are you'll pick up, some things are just kind of jump in your mind like, is that what that person was trying to do? Yes, it is worth the price of admission. Check it out. So listen, I am out of here. You guys are amazing. Take care of yourself. I'll see you tomorrow if it's Allah's will. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Preacher Moss. Shout out show. 460. Yo, assalamu alaikum. I'm Preacher Moss, comedian extraordinaire, but I like to add a new title to my name. I'm Professor Preacher Moss. You know why? Because I just graduated. Wait a minute, let me get this out of here. This is it. Okay. I'm Professor Preacher Moss, and it's come through the courtesy and the blessing of the Muhammad Ali Scholarship, which came through Bayan Islamic Graduate School. Now, listen, I know a lot of you people are thinking, can I do it? Yes, you can do it. This is the part where I know I'm supposed to say it's easy. It's not easy. Listen, it was easy to get this degree. Trump would be a mufti. I digress. Listen, though, for you brothers and sisters that are interested, go to bayanonline.org, and you could be like me. Put yourself in the picture for Islamic education. Wait a minute, there's a picture right there. Sound like them, everybody. Take care. Preach them off.